John Carter sat quietly at the back of the classroom, trying his best not to draw attention to himself. He was the only human in Professor Zixal's advanced xenobiology course at the Galactic Academy of Sciences, and today, Earth was the topic of discussion. The classroom was filled with 32 students from across the galaxy. Some floated in special anti-gravity tanks. Others perched on customized seating designed for their many limbs or unusual body structures. A few required special atmospheric chambers to survive in the standard oxygen-nitrogen mix that filled the main classroom. Professor Zixal moved to the center of the room. The professor was tall and thin with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he activated the holographic display at the front of the classroom. Today we begin our study of Class 12 Deathworlds, the professor announced. We will focus on the most notable example in our galaxy, Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth. A detailed 3-dimensional image of Earth appeared above the professor's desk. Blue oceans, white clouds, and green and brown land masses spun slowly in the air. Several students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few moved slightly away from John. Earth is classified as a death world due to several factors, Professor Zixal continued. First, its gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared is at the upper limits of what most galactic species can tolerate. Second, its atmospheric composition includes highly corrosive oxygen at levels considered toxic to 83% of known intelligent species. The professor tapped a control panel, and the hologram changed to show Earth's various environments. Scorching deserts, frozen tundra, dense jungles, stormy oceans, mountain peaks with thin air. The planet experiences temperature variations of over 150 degrees Celsius between its extremes. Parts of the planet are covered in frozen water, while others are hot enough to cause immediate cellular damage to most species. Even more concerning, the planet hosts over 8.7 million different species, many of which are predatory or venomous. John noticed several students glancing at him with new interest. He kept his expression neutral and continued taking notes on his tablet. He had been warned that this day would come eventually. But perhaps most remarkable, the professor said, is that this hostile environment produced not only intelligent life, but a species that has achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the Galactic Alliance. The hologram shifted again to show humans engaged in various activities, building cities, exploring oceans, climbing mountains, and eventually launching into space. A student near the front raised a limb. It was Cleavor, an Arcturian with 4 arms and a reputation for asking difficult questions. Professor, Cleavor said, his voice amplified by his translator. I understand the classification system, but how can anything evolve intelligence on such a hostile planet? The gravity alone would crush most sentient species. Professor Zixal's mouth parts twitched in what John had come to recognize as a smile. An excellent question. And fortunately, we have a unique opportunity today. All 6 of the professors' eyes turned toward the back of the room. We have a representative of this death world species with us. Mr. Carter, perhaps you could enlighten your classmates. Every being in the room turned to look at John. Some stared with obvious curiosity, others with what appeared to be concern or even fear. John slowly stood up. He had known this moment would come, but that didn't make it any easier. He walked to the front of the classroom, aware of how heavy and solid his movements must seem to species from lower gravity worlds. Thank you, Professor, John said. He looked around at his classmates, making eye contact with as many as possible. Some species didn't have eyes, but he nodded respectfully toward their sensory organs. Earth is the only home humans have known for most of our history, John began. We didn't realize it was unusual until we met other species. What you call a death world, we simply call home. John gestured toward the holographic display, which now showed images of Earth's oceans. Our planet is about 71% covered in water, but most humans can't breathe water. We can only hold our breath for a few minutes at most. Yet we explore the oceans anyway, building special equipment to survive there. He tapped the display controls and the image changed to show Earth's varied weather patterns. In some places, frozen water falls from the sky. In others, liquid water pours down in amounts that can flood entire regions. Sometimes the air moves so fast it destroys buildings. The ground occasionally shakes or splits open, and mountains sometimes explode, throwing hot rock into the air. The classroom was completely silent now. John could almost feel the disbelief. As the professor mentioned, Earth's gravity is strong by galactic standards. Our bones and muscles developed to cope with this. We can fall from heights that would kill many species and walk away with minor injuries. Philera, a crystalline being who required a special low-gravity field, raised a delicate limb. But how do you deal with the temperature changes? Your planet goes from freezing to boiling. John nodded. Our bodies maintain a constant internal temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius. We sweat to cool down and shiver to warm up. We've also developed technology to modify our environments and clothing to protect us from extreme conditions. Another student, a gaseous entity contained in a mobile bubble, flashed colors that its translator converted to speech. What about the dangerous animals? The predators? For most of our history, humans were not the top predators on Earth, John explained. We were hunted by larger, stronger animals. We survived by developing tools, forming groups, and using our intelligence to outsmart them. Eventually, we became the most dangerous species on the planet. Professor Zixal raised two of his four hands. Mr. Carter, perhaps you could explain to the class how humans view danger and risk? This is a fascinating cultural difference. John thought for a moment. Humans don't just accept danger. Many of us seek it out. We climb the highest mountains, dive into the deepest oceans, and explore the most extreme environments on our planet, not for resources or necessity, but simply because they are there. We have a saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. A low murmur passed through the classroom. John realized he might have said too much. Cleavor spoke again. You seek out danger, voluntarily? For what purpose? John smiled slightly. That's a complex question. Sometimes for knowledge, sometimes for the feeling it gives us, sometimes just to see if we can. Professor Zixal stepped forward. I believe this is an excellent place to pause. Mr. Carter has given us much to consider. For our next session, please research human adaptations to environmental stressors and be prepared to discuss them. As the students began to file out, many of them gave John a wide berth, but a few lingered, clearly wanting to ask more questions. John gathered his belongings, knowing that this was just the beginning of their education about humans and his education about how the rest of the galaxy viewed his species. The next day, John arrived early to the classroom. Professor Zixal had asked him to prepare a short presentation about human physical adaptations. John had spent most of the night gathering information and images that would help explain how humans had survived on Earth. When the other students filed in, John noticed they seemed more curious than fearful today. Several even chose seats closer to him than they had before. Professor Zixal entered last, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence as he surveyed the room. Today, as promised, we continue our study of Earth and its dominant species. Mr. Carter has kindly agreed to share more details about human adaptations to their Deathworld environment. John walked to the front of the room and connected his tablet to the holographic projector. A 3-dimensional image of a human skeletal system appeared above the desk. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in countless ways. John began. Our bodies reflect millions of years of adaptation to these dangers. He highlighted the spine and leg bones. Our upright posture allowed us to see predators from far away across open grasslands. Our leg structure lets us run long distances without resting. Several students leaned forward with interest. Cleavor, the Arcturian with 4 arms, raised one limb. How fast can humans run, he asked. Our fastest runners can reach about 45 kilometers per hour for very short bursts, John answered. But our real advantage isn't speed, it's endurance. John changed the display to show video footage of traditional persistence hunters in Earth's hot regions. Early humans would chase animals until they collapsed from heat exhaustion, he explained. Most animals can run faster than humans, but they overheat quickly. Humans can run for hours or even days without stopping. A ripple of surprise moved through the classroom. Days? Asked Vilara, the crystalline being. Without stopping to rest or refuel? We need water, John clarified. But yes, trained human runners can go for extremely long periods. We have special cooling systems built into our bodies. John changed the display to show a close-up of human skin with sweat glands highlighted. We cool ourselves by releasing water through our skin. The water evaporates and takes heat away from our bodies. This lets us stay active in hot conditions. That would kill many species. Mox, a three-bodied hive-mind creature, spoke next. Its three mouths moved in perfect sync. What about cold environments? Your planet has regions covered in frozen water. John nodded and changed the display again. This time it showed humans in Arctic conditions. Humans can survive in temperatures from about -50 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius with minimal protection. Our bodies generate heat continuously. In cold environments, we develop technologies like insulated clothing, artificial heating, and shelters. John changed the display once more to show a human hand. Our hands are another key adaptation. We can grip tools with precision while still maintaining enough strength to use them effectively. This allowed us to create technologies that compensated for our physical limitations. Professor Zixal interrupted. Perhaps you could address the atmospheric composition of Earth? Many students were concerned about the oxygen levels you consider normal. John nodded. Earth's atmosphere contains about 21% oxygen. For many species, this would be corrosive or even toxic. Humans not only tolerate this level, we require it. Our cells need oxygen to produce energy efficiently. He changed the display to show the human respiratory system. We take in oxygen through these organs called lungs. Our blood carries the oxygen to all parts of our body. Without it, we would die within minutes. A student at the back, a methane breather inside a containment suit, raised an appendage. Do all Earth creatures require oxygen? Almost all complex life on Earth evolved to use oxygen, John confirmed, though some simple organisms can live without it. John switched the display again to show images of human healing. Another adaptation is our ability to recover from injury. If a human breaks a bone, the body can repair it. If our skin is cut, it grows back together. We can lose significant amounts of blood and replace it naturally over time. He showed time-lapse footage of a wound healing and a broken bone mending. Several students made sounds that John's translator interpreted as expressions of surprise or disgust. But perhaps our most important physical adaptation is our brain, John continued, changing the display to show the human nervous system. Humans have complex brains that let us solve problems, remember solutions, and teach them to others. This meant we didn't need to evolve physical defenses like thick shells, venom, or exceptional strength. Cleavor spoke again. You mentioned that humans seek out danger. Does this behavior have a biological basis? John considered the question. Partly. Our bodies produce chemicals called hormones when we face challenges or dangers. Some of these chemicals can create pleasant feelings. This might explain why some humans enjoy activities that seem dangerous. He showed images of humans rock climbing, surfing enormous waves, and diving from great heights. Many humans voluntarily do things that might harm or kill them. We call it adventure or sport. These activities have no survival purpose. We do them because we enjoy the feeling. The classroom fell silent. John could see the students trying to process this concept. Professor Zixal stepped forward. I believe what Mr. Carter is describing relates to the concept of hormetic stress, when exposure to moderate danger or difficulty actually strengthens an organism. Is that correct? John nodded. Yes. There's a human saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Our bodies and minds often improve when faced with challenges. A student near the front, a plant-based intelligence with flowering growths where a head would be on a human, produced a sweet scent that its translator converted to words. Does this mean humans become stronger when they survive dangerous situations? Often, yes, John replied. Our muscles grow when stressed. Our bones become denser under pressure. Our immune systems learn from each illness they defeat. Even our minds can become more resilient after facing difficulties. Professor Zixal raised 2 hands. I believe this gives us much to consider regarding human physical adaptations. For our next session, Mr. Carter will discuss human psychological responses to danger and adversity, which appear to be as remarkable as their physical traits. As the students began to leave, John noticed that many of them were talking excitedly among themselves. A few even approached him with questions, their earlier fear seemingly replaced by fascination. John gathered his materials, feeling a mix of pride and unease. He was proud of humanity's resilience, but he worried about how the other species might view humans once they fully understood what evolution on a Deathworld had created. A week had passed since John's presentation on human physical adaptations. The classroom was completely full when he arrived. Word had spread across the Galactic Academy about the human student who was explaining life on a Deathworld. Several faculty members from other departments had joined the class today, standing quietly at the back of the room. Professor Zixal gestured for John to come to the front. Today, Mr. Carter will discuss how humans think and feel about danger. As we learned last time, the physical adaptations of humans are impressive, but it is perhaps their mental approach to threats that truly sets them apart. John took his place at the center of the room. He had spent days preparing for this lecture, knowing it would be harder to explain human psychology than human biology. Thank you for coming, John began. Last time, we talked about how human bodies adapted to Earth. Today, I want to explain how our minds work. John activated the holographic display. Images appeared showing humans facing various challenges, climbing mountains, fighting fires, exploring deep caves, and flying into space. Physical adaptation alone doesn't explain why humans survived on Earth, John continued. Our real advantage is how our minds respond to challenges. Cleavor, who had moved to the front row, raised one of his 4 arms. But surely the logical response to danger is avoidance. Why would any species deliberately seek out risk? John nodded. That seems logical. But humans often do the opposite. We are drawn to the unknown and the challenging. We have a strong drive to explore, to test limits, and to overcome obstacles. He changed the display to show brain scans of humans engaged in difficult activities. When humans face challenges that match our skill level, our brains enter a special state. We call it flow. Time seems to slow down. We focus completely. We feel deeply satisfied afterward, even if the activity was dangerous. Mox, the 3-bodied hive mind, spoke next. All 3 mouths moved in perfect sync. You're saying humans intentionally put themselves in danger? For enjoyment? Sometimes yes, John admitted. He displayed images of extreme sports, people jumping from cliffs with wingsuits, surfing massive waves and climbing sheer rock faces without safety equipment. We call it adventure or fun or thrill-seeking, John explained. These activities serve no survival purpose. We do them because they make us feel alive. The classroom erupted with sounds that John's translator couldn't fully interpret, a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and what might have been nervous laughter. Professor Zixal had to wave all 4 arms to restore order. But the most important, psychological adaptation, John continued when the class quieted, is our response to the impossible. He showed historical footage of early human flight attempts, the first moon landing, deep ocean exploration, and the Mars colonies. Throughout human history, we've been told certain things were impossible. Flying, traveling to space, living underwater. Each time these impossible challenges became obsessions. We couldn't resist trying to prove they were possible. Vilara, the crystalline being, chimed in. Is this why humans advanced so quickly after achieving spaceflight? Our records show your species went from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in just 247 standard years. Most species take at least a millennium. John nodded. Exactly. Once we knew interstellar travel was possible, we couldn't rest until we achieved it. It's not just curiosity. It's almost a compulsion to overcome limits. A faculty member at the back of the room spoke up. Does this psychological trait explain human art forms as well? Many species find human entertainment disturbing because it often features danger. That's very perceptive, John replied. Humans use stories to explore dangerous scenarios safely. Our fiction is full of threats, conflicts, and challenges. We use these stories to practice how we might respond to real dangers. He showed clips from human adventure movies displaying how humans portrayed conflicts and their resolution. We even entertain children with stories about danger and how to overcome it, John added. From a young age, humans learn that facing problems directly is valued in our culture. The plant-based intelligence near the front produced a questioning scent. Does this mean humans enjoy being afraid? Not exactly, John clarified. But we do experience a satisfaction from overcoming fear. Many human entertainment forms deliberately trigger fear responses in controlled settings. We call it the thrill of a scary movie or an exciting ride. John paused to change the display again. Now it showed human children playing. This mentality begins very early. Human children naturally engage in risky play, climbing, jumping, wrestling, exploring. These activities help develop risk assessment skills and build confidence. Another faculty member spoke up. In my field of xenopsychology, we've observed that most intelligent species develop abstract thinking as a way to avoid physical dangers. They imagine consequences without experiencing them. Are you suggesting humans use abstract thinking differently? John thought about this for a moment. Humans do use abstract thinking to avoid some dangers, but we also use it to calculate which risks are worth taking. We don't avoid all danger, we manage it. He showed images of human safety equipment, helmets, harnesses, protective clothing. We've developed technologies that let us take calculated risks. We don't eliminate the danger. We reduce it to a level we find acceptable. Cleavor spoke again. This explains much about human behavior in the Galactic Alliance. Your species has taken on some of the most dangerous terraforming projects, mining operations in radiation zones, and diplomatic missions to hostile regions. Yes, John confirmed. Those jobs appeal to many humans precisely because they are challenging. The greater the challenge, the more satisfying it is to overcome. Professor Zixal stepped forward. I believe we need time to process this information. The psychological adaptations Mr. Carter has described are as significant as the physical, ones perhaps more so. They help explain why a species from a Deathworld has expanded so quickly into the galaxy. As the class ended, John noticed the mood had shifted. The alien students weren't looking at him with fear anymore. There was still caution in their expressions, but now mixed with something that looked like respect. One of the faculty members approached John as he gathered his materials. The being was ancient, with skin that had faded to nearly transparent. Young human, the elder academic said quietly. Your species reminds me of an old saying. The most dangerous predator is not the strongest or the fastest, but the one that never stops trying. I wonder if the galaxy is ready for a species that sees obstacles as challenges rather than warnings. John didn't know how to respond to that. He simply nodded and watched as the elder being slowly moved away, leaving him with an uncomfortable question. How would the galaxy react when it fully understood what a Deathworld species was capable of? John arrived early for his next presentation to find the classroom already filling up. The number of attendees had doubled again, with students from other courses and even more faculty members eager to hear about humans. Several small floating cameras hovered near the ceiling. The Academy was recording the session for their archives. Professor Zixal approached John before the class began. Mr. Carter, I must inform you that your lectures have created quite a stir. The Galactic Council has expressed interest in your presentations. John felt a flutter of concern. Is that good or bad, Professor? The professor's 6 eyes blinked in rapid sequence, a sign of mixed emotions. It is unusual, fascinating to some, concerning to others. Today's topic, human social structures, may be the most important yet. As the room filled to capacity, John noticed several beings wearing the formal insignia of diplomatic corps. This was no longer just a classroom exercise. Professor Zixal called for attention. Today, Mr. Carter will explain how humans organize themselves socially. As we've learned, individual humans have remarkable physical and psychological adaptations to their death world. But their true strength may lie in their collective behaviors. John moved to the center of the room, suddenly aware of how much weight his words carried. He activated the holographic display showing images of early human tribal groups. Individually, humans are tough, John began, but collectively we're far more powerful. Our social organizations multiply our effectiveness many times over. He showed how early humans formed small hunting groups, then tribes, then villages and cities. Early humans faced predators that were stronger and faster. No single human could defeat a cave lion or mammoth. But working together, with shared plans and tools, we could. Cleavor raised a limb. Many species form collective groups. How does human cooperation differ? Good question, John replied. Many species have instinctive cooperation, built into their biology. Humans have flexible cooperation. We can quickly form new groups for new purposes. We can cooperate with strangers based on shared goals, not just with our close relatives. John changed the display to show various human organizations, companies, universities, governments, and sports teams. Humans don't just adapt genetically over generations. We adapt culturally and technologically within a single lifetime. We create solutions to problems and then teach them to others. He showed the rapid progress of human technology, from stone tools to digital computers in less than 10,000 years. This cultural transmission of knowledge creates a compounding effect, John continued. Each generation doesn't start from zero. They begin with all the knowledge of previous generations. Mox, the three-bodied hive mind, spoke up. Our studies show human history contains many conflicts between human groups. Doesn't this contradict the cooperation advantage? John nodded soberly. There's a dark side to our social adaptations. The same drive that pushes humans to cooperate within groups can drive competition between groups. He carefully displayed examples of human warfare throughout history, from tribal conflicts to modern battles. For much of our history, human groups fought each other for resources, territory, or dominance. Each conflict pushed development of new technologies and social systems. Vilara, the crystalline being, chimed in with a musical tone. Your species fought itself? Regularly? Yes, John acknowledged. But each conflict, while destructive, also produced innovations. Our weapons became our tools. Our defense systems became our infrastructure. The social cohesion needed for warfare became the foundation for larger peaceful societies. A diplomatic representative in formal attire spoke from the back of the room. Yet your species eventually unified enough to join the Galactic Alliance. How did a species with such internal conflict make this transition? John changed the display to show the progression of human governance systems. We learned, slowly and painfully, to channel our competitive nature into less destructive forms. Sports, economic competition, scientific rivalry, political contests. These allow the drive to compete and excel without the same level of harm. He showed images of the Olympic Games, scientific award ceremonies, and business competitions. We also developed systems to manage conflicts peacefully. Laws, courts, democratic elections. These don't eliminate competition, but they provide rules that reduce harm. The plant-based intelligence near the front released a questioning scent. Does this mean humans still compete within the Galactic Alliance? Yes, John said frankly. Humans remain competitive, but we've learned to direct that drive in constructive ways. The challenge of integrating with non-human species has become our new frontier, a challenge we're determined to meet successfully. An elder academic with translucent skin spoke next. Young human, it seems your species adapts through stress, physically, mentally, and socially. Does this mean humans actually require challenges to thrive? John considered this carefully. I believe it does. Without challenges, humans often create them. We set arbitrary goals. We establish difficult games with unnecessary rules. We climb mountains, as one of our explorers said, because they are there. Challenge seems essential to human well-being. Professor Zixal moved forward. This may explain an observation about human communities within the Alliance. Humans often volunteer for the most difficult assignments. They establish colonies on the harshest planets. They pursue the most complex scientific questions. Is this a deliberate choice? Not always consciously, John explained. But yes, humans are drawn to the difficult. We have a saying, nothing worth doing is easy. We often measure the value of an achievement by how hard it was to accomplish. Diplomatic representative stood up. Mr. Carter, does your species understand how unusual this perspective is? Most species in the Alliance seek to minimize difficulties and maximize comfort. Your approach seems counterintuitive. John smiled slightly. We're beginning to understand how different we are. That's part of why I'm giving these talks. The diplomat nodded slowly. The Alliance Council will find this information valuable. Your species' rapid expansion has caused some concern. This context helps explain your behavior patterns. As the session ended, John noticed small groups forming, with intense discussions happening in various corners of the room. The implications of a Deathworld species joining galactic society were becoming clearer, and not everyone seemed comfortable with what they were learning. Professor Zixal approached John again. Tomorrow's session will be your last, Mr. Carter. The topic is perhaps the most important. What does it mean for the galaxy that a Deathworld species has joined the interstellar community? I suggest you prepare carefully, more than just academy. Students will be listening. John nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. Tomorrow he would need to address the question that hung unspoken in the air. Were humans dangerous to the galaxy? The answer wasn't simple, and he knew his response could shape human-alien relations for generations to come. The final day of John's presentations arrived. He entered the lecture hall to find it completely transformed. The normal classroom had been replaced by a large amphitheater. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the seats. In the front, row sat members of the Galactic Council, their formal attire and security details marking them as high-ranking officials. Professor Zixal met John at the entrance. The Academy administrators moved us to the Grand Hall, he explained. Your talks have generated unprecedented interest. The Council has requested a direct feed. John felt a wave of nervousness. I didn't expect this to become so political. The professor's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. Knowledge is always political, Mr. Carter, especially knowledge about a species with your particular capabilities. As John took his place at the center of the stage, he noticed additional security personnel positioned around the room. The floating cameras had multiplied, now broadcasting to viewers across multiple star systems. Professor Zixal addressed the audience. We conclude our special series on Earth as a Class 12 Deathworld and its implications. Today, Mr. John Carter will address the question that underlies all our previous discussions. What does it mean for the galaxy that humans have joined our interstellar community? As the professor stepped back, John looked out at the sea of alien faces. Some showed curiosity, others concern, many a mixture of both. He decided to abandon his prepared remarks. This moment called for honesty, not diplomacy. John did not activate the holographic display this time. Instead, he simply sat on the edge of the stage, creating a more intimate atmosphere despite the huge audience. You've all been asking why Earth is classified as a death world, he began quietly. And I've shown you the adaptations that let us survive there. But you're still missing the most important question. The hall fell silent, all attention focused on the human. The question isn't why Earth is a death world, John continued. The question is, what does it mean for the galaxy that the most dangerous planet we know of produced us? He paused, letting the implications sink in. Earth isn't a death world, despite humans evolving there. Earth is a death world because it created humans. Murmurs ran through the audience. A council member in the front row leaned forward with interest. John stood and began to walk slowly across the stage. Everything that makes Earth dangerous made us who we are. The predators made us clever. The diseases made our bodies resilient. The natural disasters made us cooperative. The harsh climates made us adaptable. He pointed to the exit doors. If a fire broke out right now, most species would panic or freeze. Humans would organize an evacuation. We've been dealing with fire for hundreds of thousands of years. What's deadly to others is a tool to us. John looked directly at the council members. This isn't about superiority. It's about difference. Humans aren't better than other species. We're simply adapted to conditions that would kill most of you. He gestured to the stars visible through the hall's transparent ceiling. When we reached space, we found it easy compared to Earth. Low radiation, no predators, no diseases, no extreme weather. To us, most of the galaxy feels safe. A council member raised a hand requesting permission to speak. John nodded to the tall, elegant being. You speak of the galaxy as safe, the counselor said. Yet data shows humans consistently seeking out the most dangerous regions, missions, and professions within Alliance territory. How do you explain this behavior if you find space easy? John smiled slightly. Because danger is not a deterrent to humans, it's an attraction. When our environment becomes too comfortable, we get restless. We seek out challenges. We explore. We push boundaries. Another counselor spoke up. Is this why human expansion has occurred at 3 times the rate of any other recently admitted species? Partly, John acknowledged. We don't see harsh planets as places to avoid. We see them as puzzles to solve. Terraforming a toxic world isn't a burden to humans. It's an exciting challenge. The first counselor leaned forward again. Some in the Alliance have expressed concern that this rapid expansion reflects aggressive intentions. John shook his head. It's not aggression. It's curiosity and drive. Humans don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to understand it, explore it, and yes, test ourselves against it. Cleavor, who had earned a place in the front row, raised a limb. So you're saying, the Arcturian student began cautiously, that from humanity's perspective, the rest of the galaxy isn't dangerous enough? John's smile widened slightly. Now you're beginning to understand. The hall erupted into sounds of alarm, interest, and heated discussion. Several council members conferred urgently with each other. Professor Zixal had to use amplification to restore order. When the noise subsided, he addressed John. Mr. Carter, some might interpret your statement as threatening. It's not meant to be, John said firmly. Humans don't see the galaxy as something to conquer. We see it as something to explore and improve. We're not a threat unless we're threatened. John turned to face the entire audience. Here's what you need to understand about humans. We're shaped by adversity. We expect life to be difficult. When we face obstacles, we don't give up. We become more determined. He looked at the council members directly. If the Alliance accepts humans as partners, you gain a species that will tackle the problems others avoid. We'll terraform the hostile planets. We'll take on dangerous missions. We'll find solutions to problems you thought were unsolvable. John paused, then added, but if you treat us as enemies, you create the very threat you fear. A species evolved on a Deathworld doesn't surrender when challenged. We don't back down. We innovate, adapt, and overcome. The hall fell silent again. John could see the council members exchanging glances, processing his words. Finally, the lead counselor stood. Mr. Carter has given us much to consider. Humanity's unique evolution offers both opportunities and challenges for our shared future. I propose a special committee to develop integration strategies that recognize these differences. As the formal session concluded, beings crowded around John, asking questions and offering comments. Some seemed frightened, others excited, most simply curious to learn more. Professor Zixal made his way to John's side. Well done, he said quietly. You've given them the truth, for better or worse. John nodded, watching as the council members continued their intense discussion. I just hope they understand the most important part. The professor tilted his head questioningly. Which is? John smiled. That humans are just getting started. Everything we've accomplished so far, from stone tools to faster-than-light travel, is just the beginning. The greatest challenges are still ahead, and nothing motivates humans more than being told something is impossible. As they looked out at the swirling crowd of aliens still discussing his words, John realized that humanity's journey among the stars would be neither simple nor easy, but then again nothing worth doing ever was.